now we're even because remember I screwed up your godless engineer
I
conversation.
do remember that. And it was your fault. Oh, good. Now you told me because I didn't know it was your fault until today. John screwed up the godless engineer. I screwed up the Esther O'Reilly. So now we're even. I apologize to anybody who's listening for interrupting that broadcast. I shut down the tablet because the tablet was acting up and didn't realize I was shutting down the broadcast. So now we were doing Billy Joel imitations. We were talking about Simon and Garfunkel. Things started to get really funky, and now we're gonna say our goodbyes. But what were you saying about Billy Joel just before we sign off?
Well, were we still live when I was doing his story about hearing the Adagio for strings?
Yes, most of that was, or almost all of that is live.
I think it was just when you guys were singing, and a little bit before that too.
God was trying to tell us something there. Yeah, for
sure. Not everything the audience gets to hear.
On Thursday night, so I may be broadcasting live from a karaoke bar.
Oh, so, God,
no. Yes, God, yes. No, God, yes. This is the God moment. This is something God has ordained for his children.
He is ordained to bless the world through your golden dulcet tones, Craig.
Yes, tis true. Okay, so now, Esther, actually, I do have some karaoke's on this channel somewhere or other. Billy Joel, what were you telling us about Billy Joel? Just before we close it out. For you kids at home who don't know Billy Joel, he's a famous singer from the 80s and 90s, really popular in New York.
Well, I think of him as doing his best work in the 70s, really. So that's when that's when you get Piano Man and The Stranger, It's from Italian Restaurant. Yeah, we were just goofing off air, but I love Billy because he's, well, you know, I think I connect with Billy's personality kind of similarly to the way that I connect with Jordan's personality, because, you know, much like Peterson, Billy Joel will just like say straight out what he thinks. If you watch him in like Q&As and workshops that he does, you know, somebody asks him a question, he'll be like, no, I'm not going to do that. And, you know, he just says what he thinks. And so he's got his sort of New York culture of tactlessness. Peterson has his Alberta brand of tactlessness, and I've got my sort of Midwest brand of tactlessness. And so, you know, we're all like tactless together.
The Midwest brand is supposed to be tactful. That's the common mythology. New Yorkers, I'm driving here. Forget about it.
I'm walking here. Okay, I have to wrap this up in like about a few minutes. I'm being told someone's flagging me, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's just a few things about Billy Joel. But what I was liking and digging in the story that I was telling before is how he's, you know, he was sort of open about having that moment, that little sort of vulnerable emotional moment. So I think there's that side to him, even though he's a very cynical writer in some ways. There's also this sort of tender sides. Like if you listen to this lullaby he wrote for his daughter called Good Night, My Angel, that's actually a really profound little reflection on immortality, you know, in life and death, and what does it mean to go on. And I think he's sort of, he's also kind of searching, I think, in his own way, almost like Peterson is searching, but differently, of course. Very different personality.
So cool. John, you want to say one last thing, and then we'll let her tell us sign off?
Yeah, go read Esther's work. She's got a lot of different articles in many different places and different conversations. I'd recommend let's see, her conversation with Benjamin Boyce. That's quite the that's quite the fun one.
that was odd because I tried to send Benjamin like a list of ideas of stuff for us to talk about, and then he like didn't read it before we started, and he just kind of launched into his own thing and started asking me questions about God and faith and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. If that's what we're talking about, that's great, you know. So, but I wasn't really anticipating most of his questions there, but it was okay, you know. That's fine. Yeah, my blog is Young Fogey on the Pathos Network. And then at Esther of Riley is where I tweet out new stuff. And also new video conversations, like, I'm going to be talking with James Lindsay on the Unbelievable show in a couple weeks here. So that'll be fun.
Ooh.
I'll tweet that out when it happens.
That should be good. Have you seen his conversation with Paul Vanderklay?
Yeah, I did. That was an interesting conversation, and I
Yeah.
think I'll be somewhat kind of picking up what Paul was saying, because much like Paul, I also yeah, I'm not happy with how social justice has sort of encroached into the church as well. And so I really like a lot of what James is doing with his work. I think the problem, though, is that he sort of sees, well, because he groups social justice together with other religions, he's going to sort of keep banging his secularist drum in a sense and saying, we need to start treating this like a religion. But that's how we deal with everything, is to sort of keep secularizing, keep everything secular. But I would argue, and I've got a friend of mine who's maybe going to be joining us, the two of us would argue that actually you have to go back to Christianity. If you really want to sort of slay the dragon of social justice, you need Jesus to do that for you.
Yeah, you'll have to make a strong case for why science, as it is currently, is necessarily nested within a Christian framework. I think that would be what's necessary, because as it is, with the emergent religion of intersectionality coming up and kind of taking away a solid foundation for scientism, I'm sure any religion that has good foundation for science is one that people will be more open to, rather than SJW nonsense, I guess.
Yeah, and I would sort of pull a little jujitsu move on James and say, the very reason that you're, like, when you look at gender theorists and whatnot who are peddling all this BS about, guess what? Women can have penises too. Like, no, they can't. What is this? This is insane. I would say, well, James, look, this is great. You're intuiting that that men and women are naturally different, and that men's bodies have a particular function and purpose, and women's bodies have a particular function and purpose. There's that word purpose again. It's we all seem to have this instinct here. Does that really make sense within a random selection or random mutation plus natural selection framework, though? Because if that really is how we all sort of came to be, then I mean, why not just sort of make things up as we go along, I guess, So I would sort of like turn the tables a little bit, say work backwards now, but he's probably not going to listen to me there. I'll think of other stuff to say. Maybe somewhat like my conversation with John Wood Jr., which is another great talk you can go check out. We talked some about the gospel of social justice not really being good news, because it's just punishment and judgment with no redemption. And so we also need the Christian gospel to counter that.
Yeah, and so I think that's especially useful because, like, there's already within secularism kind of the understanding that evil or something quite closely akin to it exists, and it's something that exists within the hearts of every man and woman alive.
Exactly.
If there needs to be some sort of way to, I guess, recognize that fact, and also how to deal with that fact, because within the social justice religion, there's the understanding that there is evil, but it's only in certain people that are in positions of power. And even then, there's no way to, I guess, exorcise those demons that you're born with in that case. So, yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, right. I think the Liam Neeson story is a good illustration of that.
Exactly.
All right. So,
okay, so last question, Esther. If we have hangouts where we talk about general stuff, do you want me to sometimes let you know, and maybe you join a group of people and chat?
Yeah, you can let me know. I mean, I'm trying to kind of focus on my school stuff now. That's why I'm kind of backing off of Twitter and whatnot. So I might not be able to say yes very often, but I might drop in occasionally. Okay. So yeah, definitely keep me posted.
Good to know. Okay, so that is all for tonight, and sorry that we had to interrupt the broadcast, but that's just how these things are. And that is all. We are signing off. Say goodnight, kids.